think hockey might be the most unhealthy thing that I do. It would be misguided to think that we are trying to train necessarily for peak performance. We're trying to access this certain level more than the other guy. We can tap into our 80% potential. Most nights we're going to be in a good spot because a lot of guys feel like shit out there most of the time.
Now, as someone who has interviewed and been around a lot of pro athletes, I really like to conceptualize how we connect our consciousness with the goal. It's like 3D art. Like at the top end, what separates you from the next guy is how present you are under pressure.
You know, on the ice, it's an active surrender as a goalie, but it's just as much off the ice, that competitive athlete who wants to perform, feel at my best all the time. Have to surrender a lot to that and trust what's within can come out whenever I need it to. It used to be like, okay, try harder. How do I do more? And now it's, how do I get out of my own way?
So as an athlete, the more we hold our consciousness within our awareness, the more present we are.
Just noticing when I start to live out that loop and that fear, and replacing it with just the question of like, how can I experience this moment fully right now and be in this moment fully? Like, just as simple as that.
Good afternoon, Gamma Seekers. I have an athlete with you, and today we're going to have a conversation that I've been looking forward to far too long. Now, as someone who has interviewed and been around a lot of pro athletes, I really like to conceptualize how we connect our consciousness with the goal. It's actually the majority of what makes golfers golfers. And it's like 3D art, you know, a quarterback spiraling a football towards a receiver. There's timing and a rhythm that you're locking into that most people can't really relate to, like a moving masterpiece of chess with multiple players involved. And there has to be like trust, and fly halves for rugby teams relate to this differently than like quarterbacks for football teams. Archers relate to this field with the wind and a target differently than golfers do, but we all have our way of connecting with it. Very few have to receive. Fighters, wrestlers, and goalies, I think, would be the athletes that are trained to receive and to surrender to the attack upon them. So I'm going to steer this conversation with Strauss, man. He's a professional hockey goalie. You're a USA Olympian. And the reason why I linked up with you is because our channels overlapped in the sense of recovery and unlocking performance. So I found you online, thought your page was hella interesting. And I've been really excited to discussing with a high-end goalie how they practice the presence. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time as well. And your page is really cool. You got some really cool things going on there. I think a lot of things that just simply aren't talked about enough in sports and aren't understood and embodied enough in sports, whether that's youth or pro. And so a lot of the things relate to the journey I've been on, which feels very isolating at times, but it's good to have conversations like these to just go deeper and explore what's out there.
Because on the outside, a lot of people, they see professional athletes as top tier trainers. Like, we practice a lot and then we play in a lot of tournaments and there's travel involved. But that's actually most people's concept of what a pro athlete is. And when you get a little bit closer and you get around pros, you start realizing that schedule of training is very much compartmentalized into specific goals that are calibrated by different kinds of coaches. Some athletes may have 10 coaches on their fleet and a couple therapists that they go to. They might go to a mental coach, and they might also go to like a muscle recovery or fascia recovery coach. It kind of depends on the athlete and how complex their system has become. So I would love if you could take us behind that lens of your experience and talk to us about what it is to be a US Olympic goalie and all of the unseen things that are happening.
Yeah, it's really well said. As a pro hockey goalie first, I consider myself, it's definitely interesting being in this sport, and I can really only speak for this sport because it's the only thing I've experienced and experienced deeply. The Olympics was this amazing experience, but I'm not your normal Olympian who trained for 4 years for this big event and qualified, and then this was my, Super Bowl type thing. It was in the midst of my pro season and just kind of hopped on a plane to Beijing, played with US for a couple weeks, and went straight back to Sweden. So definitely in the training aspect, I feel a lot more like a pro hockey player than a swimmer and track and field athlete. Within hockey, it's an interesting landscape. It's a very physical, very demanding sport. 82 games in the NHL season. That's not even including playoffs or preseason. When you compare that to what I would say is a pretty similar sport contact wise, intensity wise in football in the NFL, and them only playing 16, it's a pretty big contrast. And you add the travel and all those things on top of it. And I've said to people that I think hockey might be the most unhealthy thing that I do in terms of the training and the practicing and everything in between. So a lot of my process is about having areas off the ice that allow me to unwind the patterns that I'm doing there, and as well as just the recovery side, which we already talked about, which is huge when you're playing games till 10:30 at night and then hopping on a plane and playing another one the next day. It's not super forgiving to the body, and so it would be misguided to think that we are trying to train necessarily for peak performance, but we're trying to access this certain level more than the other guy is pretty much how it is. And if we can do that, if we can tap into our, you know, 80% potential most nights, we're going to be in a good spot because a lot of guys feel like shit out there most of the time. So it's an interesting sport to be a part of, and it can be hard at times, but there's also so much room for a competitive advantage in that sense because it's not very forgiving and it's not set up to allow us to, reach that maximum performance. You feel that more in the off season.
So 82 games a year. How many months long is your season?
It's about 8 months of regular season.
So
And
that's like a rugby schedule.
yeah,
Are your games dictated by the broadcast schedule?
for sure. Yeah, everything's about money. So obviously there's the player association, which will beg for more day games and less travel and things like that. But a lot of it will come down to viewership and what that wants.
Fascinating. The same thing here in the States. So how are you recalibrating your body in such a violent sport that kind of negates circadian rhythms and like when an athlete would be optimal? What are your have to do's in order to recover to be ready for the next game?
Yeah, sleep's a huge one. I think like any biohacker or Olympian or whatever it might be, like I've done the deep dives on all the things, whether nutrition or recovery, whatever it might be, in terms of maximizing my performance. And it's constantly, I'd say, a balance of keeping those things in mind and, wanting to check off all those things, but also just letting go in the process and not needing any of it because a lot of the time it's not going to be there. And that's what comes up for me, on the ice. It's an act of surrender as a goalie, but it's just as much off the ice, that competitive athlete who wants to perform and feel at my best all the time. Have to surrender a lot to that and trust what's within can come out whenever I need it to.
What is your process for your mental game, like in preparation for a game?
Yeah, it's a lot of journaling before the game. I've really relied on that and turned a lot towards meditation as well. My warm-ups used to be, I'd say, 75% physical and activating the body and maybe 25% mental. And I'd say in the past year or so, I flipped that. And also an attempt to not burn myself out 2 hours before the game starts because I could go down the rabbit hole doing every single warm-up that is known to mankind. Yeah, it's been helpful for me in grounding myself as well.
Okay, we're gonna dive deeper there.
Let's go.
So when people think of journaling, they often think of like dear diary. And that's not many times like how some of us mean that when we mean journaling. I know for me, I was like a statistician. So it was like what I ate, how I trained that day, how many hours I slept, where my emotions were, what my training was, and how I felt about it that day, and what I read in the book. And that was, for me, I was building all of these extra neurons because I was recapping my day. I was ironing things in. I was celebrating silver linings. So when you say journaling, what does that actually look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd say I have a couple forms of it, but keep it to two. One is very similar to what you just said. I journal on every practice, every game, journal before, couple keys, couple drills that I want to work on when I might have a little free time, whether the play is in the other zone, I'm sitting in the net alone, or after practice, before practice on my own. And then a lot of reflection afterwards, things to improve on and incorporate into the next practice, things I learned. I'm always out there just like, I love like being a master of my craft and just toying with little things and within reason, not right before the game starts and knowing when I can do that. But in a practice, I love to just like figure out little things that I wasn't aware of before. And even if it means like failing 10 times before I get that like little one thing that I can add to my list of how to play this exact play. And so, yeah, I'll journal on that. I'll keep a log and kind of go over that and every couple weeks and add it to a bigger condensed file that I have that I've been keeping for over the years. So that's the statistician in me as well. And then before games could be pretty different. It can be a mix of like getting my thoughts and emotions out, like what's boiling up inside and just letting that out energetically. Also, I'd say a bit of like manifestation in a way. Like I feel like when I write something down, I can see it. Then I can, if I either believe it right away or if I don't believe it, I'm able to catch those parts of me that want to resist that. And I can be with that part of myself and really like dive deeper into that and make sure I'm carrying the energy I want into the game. So that would be what I'm talking about when I say before game routine. What does journaling look like? And with that in mind, trying to keep it fresh, not have the same exercise every single day, but just letting that creative side of me flow because that's what I want in the game. I want that play and that surrender and dance. And I feel like I can start to create that before the game.
There was so much wisdom that you just shared in that. I wrote down like 9 notes. First, I'm just going to rip through them as a recap to everybody that's listening. This is high end, like sports athletics. This is how you hone and refine being an elite. When you can't compare yourself to other people, you have to continually reconceptualize what the goal is. So you're planning your presence like in between plays so that you're staying present. You're not just totally disengaged, but you're constantly sharpening. Like I was thinking of how golfers, we bounce our ball on the wedge while we're waiting for the next people to go. And a lot of people won't do it, but like it just continues to train your dexterity. And that's just someone who's like constantly sharpening. Then you are immediately embodying your lessons, regardless of good or bad game. It's how can I improve? Sharpening. It's amazing. Then when you're talking about manifesting, I always think that we're in co-creation with the ether field. So I think athletes are tuning their electromagnetic field to ebb and flow with adrenaline. And we learn how to expand these fields and we texturize them in our own language, in our own way. That gives us kind of like a superpower compared to other people. And even athletes that don't do this, artists do this, thieves do this, manipulators do this, salespeople do this. They read vibration in their own ways to kind of be ahead. And the water within our body is very reactive to changes in the field. And our heart and our brain is emitting a very palpable field, very charged field. And depending on our breath rate, this field will kind of move spastically or moved in a very relaxed state. Out of everyone in a band, the person that has to stay relaxed is the drummer because they
Mm,
have to keep time. If they speed up, everybody speeds up. In your sport, I believe that you are the one that has to remain calm because the calmer you are, you kind of like set a different precedent for your team. Um, I want to ask you, how do you texturize this field that you are playing with?
it's such a beautiful statement in general. And I've heard you talk about that before, and I agree. There's this other level of consciousness that kind of comes into play within sports. I think it's why we love to play it. I think it's why people love to watch it and experience it. How do I texturize it? It's such a great question. Do you mind defining texturize? for me.
Yes, I would love to. Okay, I was hoping you would ask a follow-up question because I feel like so we're taking a box that we normally just call feelings and we're turning them over. Like I like to think of nerves as electricity, and I like to think of adrenaline as volume. So the way that I've compartmentalized some of these textures is as an athlete, we are training presence. So our consciousness, like where we're holding our thoughts, like right now you and I are locked in, but like I could think about my grandma all of a sudden and just be like, my grandma. So in my awareness, I have you and my computer in this office, but like in my consciousness, I could be chilling and thinking about grandma. So as an athlete, the more we hold our consciousness within our awareness, the more present we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So if I'm playing against you and I want to kick your ass at something, let's say we're playing a game that's brand new to both of us, right? So it's which athlete can adapt to the game faster. And it's me versus you, right? I'm going to want to turn the dial up on my presence compared to you so that I can learn the game faster. Does that make sense? So the way that
Yeah.
I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my shoes off so that all of my toes and my mechanoreceptors are alive. I'm going to slow my breath rate down to 4 breaths a minute. That way I'm accessing my slower brainwave patterns, which is going to let me pick up on shit faster than everybody else. That's kind of like chatty and talking and kind of like being stimulated. I want to slow all the stimulation down, drop deeply into my body, open up my feet because I'm a battery. So like I'm no longer using just my body to respond to something. Now I'm trying to feel into the field around me. Now 30% of people have been scientifically proven to have this field. I think paintballers, like snipers, like there's another level of like connecting with large fields. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
anyway. So how as athletes work, I think that we are all playing with dials with this electromagnetic field. And you can add electrons to your body by like grounding, taking in the sunshine, adding a bunch of drugs if you want, and pretending, enhancing the quality of your water, enhancing your like sweat ratio so that you don't have stagnant water. You have like a fluid, watery, open system because the water is what makes you more connected to this field outside of the body. It's a measurable magnetic field, but the water is what lets us feel it. So people that are like, like super overweight, they're going to have a different time feeling that versus people that are, going through a fast. And a lot of people that go through a detox, they're like, man, I feel raw. Like I am aware, I am like not as numb to life. And then, you can have a bender of a weekend and you feel really disconnected from your whole body. So, when I think of texturizing a field for someone like you, a goalie, or for somebody like a director or a producer who's also like, this is how I conceptualize what you guys do. You blanket a field with your presence and then you surrender, like you take in every morsel of everything, whether it's good or bad, but like not just in your eyes and in your ears. It's like you're taking it in from your feet to your like shoulders and like you're letting your body read a whole bunch of people. Cause like the attack that comes on you is like so many people at one time. It's not just like you versus one person. Sometimes it's you versus like a mass of humans. So I imagine it like you open your field up by dialing your presence, and then it's like weight, maybe, is how you feel it. And like you're just trying to stay with the heaviest like feeling of weight. Maybe it feels like electricity. I don't know.
Yeah, that was cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, yeah. I can definitely relate to what you just said. I love how you see the goaltending position. It's like reading a book that explains you things that you know, but you didn't know that you knew, and putting vocabulary to it and structure to it. It's cool. I have definitely felt this year more than any other year. Coming into the season, I was all about the act of surrender. Like that was everything, almost to a fault at times. But it was all about just getting out of my own way. simply noticing anything in my body that wanted to tense up, that whether call it a trigger or emotional response, just anything taking me out of the present moment. And it felt like closing in a way and just opening that up and allowing and seeing and broadening my scope. You talked about feeling your feet on the ground. I wish we played on grass, but I've basically cut a hole in the front of my socks so I can feel with the front of my feet into my skates and like feeling that base. I don't know if it feels like weight, but it's just feeling the ground and what the ground feels like to me on the ice, even though it's like polyester. Yeah. And from that place, I can just see everything. I can see the player. I don't only see the puck. I used to just hyper focus on the puck and it got good results. I could see it well and I could track it, but there was so much I was unaware of, like behind me to my sides. And now it feels like everything's in front of me when I can access that place. It's, everyone's like, oh, it's flow state. And it is, but I feel like it's come from this widening. You talk about lowering your breath rate, doing everything possible to lower the stress, because the stress is always going to be there, not only from the game and the emotions and the trauma of taking pucks to the face and being in the exact same environment or the fans, but it's also the travel and all the things we already talked about with the late nights and just the things that aren't so favorable for your body. And you talked about if we're both learning a new skill and we're trying to beat each other at this game. I don't play sports to beat the crap out of other people. I don't think that's why I have fun at it. But at the end of the day, it is competition. And there's something really cool about watching players around you huffing and puffing through their mouths, like barely surviving and so focused on what's in front of them. And I'm kind of just like in there, like watching it. Like I can see it all. And I know that if they beat their guy to the net and get a shot off, like I'm not worried. Like I'm tapped in and I know that they're just surviving. So any point in which I can access that place, I've found success. And I'm getting to the place where I notice that I start to feel stressed. It used to be like, okay, try harder. How do I do more? Do more. And now it's how do I get out of my own way, reset, slow down, whether through the breath or through visualization or a lap in the corner in between whistles or spray of water in the face. It can change. Yeah, it's like it's beautiful, honestly.
Some deep. When you say visualization, what do you mean? Like, how are you practicing 75% mental now?
Yeah, there's a visualization of like before the game. I'm a big pre-scouter. I love to pre-scout the other teams. I don't think there's
Okay.
enough of that in hockey because we play so many games so fast. There's just not that much time to prepare and know every single thing about your opponent. But I like to know the main things, like how they work their power play and what guys have certain tendencies. And I think if I can visualize those before the game and feel into it, feel into that environment, it gives me permission to just let go and not need to control one more thing during the game. So yeah, that's helpful. But when I talk about on the ice, I think I was meaning more just like within my body, like feeling my body more, getting out of my head and tapping into the body because right away I want to go here. I think it's most of us, but it's definitely me. And time after time, I just realize it's like, it's not helping. Like, it's just hurting me. Like, so if I can get out of the head into the body, it's usually a lot better results wise.
All right, I need to elaborate on this because
Yeah.
as a athlete, I was told by every coach that I was an overthinker, and they'd be like, "Think less," and I'm like, and that instruction does nothing for me.
Uh,
And now that I'm older, the way that I would explain this to someone that would be an overthinker is you have electricity in your head, and if you can, when adrenaline hits you, it turns the volume up on that electricity. So it just gets like real static. But if you can pull the electricity into your toes, you can link it back up with the ground. And like we really are a battery and the earth is really a magnet. And like you got to make do with what you got, so shoving the part of your big toe through a sock to like feel the sense of your toe is still dragging your awareness. For instance, if I said right now, do you have to go pee? Right? like part of you just like closes your eyes and like a little man goes down to your bladder and just opens the door and says like, no, we're fine, like hollers back
Yeah.
up. So there's this relay system that like athletes take for granted because like we're training it all of the time. So we're hypersensitive, we're like very in our bodies. Like even sexuality, intimacy for pro athletes is like different, you know, like you experience the body differently. Most people don't feel their feet. And when adrenaline hits them, like they're very disconnected. So as an athlete, you can jump. You can take like a couple jumps before, like as a golfer, you hit a shot. As a singer, you can stand on one foot. I think like actually those balance discs are an amazing warm up tool. It's part of my like warm up. It's just like feeling your balance with your eyes open and then closing your eyes and then trying to feel all the way, relying on the feet. I think that's like a hella good grounding situation. But if we changed overthinking to like too much electricity and we change like you're in your head to like pull that electricity down to your feet, I think we would empower more like very clever, smart athletes to just pull that awareness because like when we're in our head, we're usually thinking past or future. And that's where we lose our presence because our consciousness is no longer part of our awareness. So we're in our head, but we're not present versus like being in the body helps us maintain the presence because like we're pulling the field out and around us. So like when we're around the legends of our sport and you can like feel how they impact the room, like I think that's the volume of their electromagnetic field. Like when I met Hulk Hogan, the WWE guy, it was like he had a spotlight on him and we were like in the wild and down like a wrestler, but his energy was gigantic. Like and he's just one of many examples, but for whatever reason, he comes to mind right now.
Yeah. Feel that even within a team, those top players, I'm sure there's some relativity in there. They go to a better team and they feel the opposite, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In that field, that brightness, somebody can feel like a bad bitch, like in one town, and then they move and they're like, oh no. And then you have to calibrate to kind of like what's in the field. There's this guy in England, Rupert Sheldrake, and he wrote the theory on morphic resonant fields. And it's a theory for causative formation, like how shit was created other than the Big Bang. And part of me is I know it's still a theory, like it just registers as true. And I think prime top notch athletics is such a good example. Like when you are dosing regularly adrenaline and you are hanging out with the best in the world and like pushing yourself to your limit, you're feeling how you can play with how you show up. And like you dose your adrenaline too early, you kind of overdo your warm up and you have no juice left for the game. And then you learn how to play with these dials because you're actually playing with your field. And it's time for us athletes to catch up with the science and start to like realize what we're actually doing. We're like at the top end, what separates you from the next guy is how present you are under pressure. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so.
And recovery. I mean, and those are my two things. We got to recover. We got to stay present.
Yeah. I think coaches in the athletic field, they're really good at knowing what's missing, what's wrong. Like you said, like, okay, stop thinking. That's what's wrong is you're in your head, but not understanding the intricacies and the holistic nature of how that works enough to give you real tangible things to use to move forward. And oftentimes I think it puts people more into their head as I have to try harder or, I can't feel this way, which actually it gets you further away from things because you're pushing stuff away. You're pushing your emotions away instead of going into them and feeling more. You're going more into your head because you're judging yourself so much about this is what I should be doing, but I'm clearly not doing that. So I have to try harder or do more. You said it's time for athletics to catch up with the science. I think it's also time for science to catch up with reality and hopefully integrate both of that into athletics would be nice.
Yeah, I think athletes will push science. And I think
Yeah.
also that, like, for instance, there's 655-ish muscles in the body. And the trainers, when you're like in the weight room, they talk about all of these different muscle groups. But if we could just adapt to fascia language, like I think recovery in high end sport athletics is a ridiculously overlooked part, like soft tissue recovery and how it throws the joints out of balance, how like loss of toe function ends up to knee and hip pain. And the sports therapists on the team, they kind of, act like gods, like it's their job to keep the whole team. And it's like,
Mm,
these are professional athletes. They need their own recovery tools that they do at night that are easy, that are actually effective, that they can do on the road with them. So I think I'm like ready for an overhaul of most sports. Even World Cup soccer players, their period isn't taken in mind. Like it's wild what even is demanded out of a professional artist and their voice. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. There's no long-term longevity. We're all built to get arthritis early. We're built for joint replacement early. There's ways through this. We don't have to be on the same loop. We've found a lot of ways through the psychology of winning, the psychology of remaining present. That's where I think we're ready for the electromagnetic conversation because we're here. Like when you say practicing feeling and feeling the field, surrendering, tell me where in your body you feel all of these things.
I think I feel into the body to access it, but once you're there, you're floating. You're just feeling. It's like you're just there because you're not identified with the body. You can feel it just like you can sense what's in the corner of the ice and maybe behind you, even though you can't see it, but you kind of feel it all, at least at my position. I also don't want to be, it's important to note, I don't want to be inside my body during the game. I want to be in the game. So when I experience that in its most successful form, like, or its best, my awareness is not within my body. I use the body to become more present. And then I feel like I go out from there. I put my awareness out into the field, into the game.
And then what happens when they start to advance towards you?
Then sometimes I tense up and then I go back into my body. Yeah, that's the that's the balance. But sometimes I have enough time to go back into my body and then back onto the ice again.
What is that? What's the volume control for you there? Like, or like the switch so fear would drag you back in, but what pulls you back out? Like, what's your accelerator back out?
That's such a good question. It varies. I think sometimes like it's like a up for the challenge, like flipping the narrative on that fear, on that threat. Someone advances at me and it's like all this feeling in my body, this closing of, oh, I got scored on from here once before. And the challenge is it's a really fast game. And at times the reality is you don't have time to recalibrate. Like it's hard. It's really hard. That's why for me, I've turned my warm-ups into 75% mental, emotional side, as I said, because I feel like if I can show up into that environment more grounded, then those things aren't as triggering and don't throw me off as much. And I can kind of hold that space and that groundedness longer and through more. But if I'm already entering the game feeling that way, like I'm toast. I'm just surviving out
Take notes, people.
there.
This is excellent. Any follow-up thoughts on everything you just shared there?
Just that it's a constant practice. Like I'm really implementing a lot of this stuff for the first time this season. I've had a lot of success with it, and then every game's a new game, every moment's a new moment, like just returning back to practices. And that's why I love the journaling too, and that mastery aspect. It's like you can keep compounding what you've learned into the next thing. And I feel like that's when the real breakthroughs happen. It's just showing up every day. And for me, I can be pretty hard on myself too. So not taking myself down in the process when I'm not executing at the best that I can, or I'm not finding that zone. Like today, I had one of the worst practices of my year, and it was devastating. But just, yeah, noticing the things that I'm doing better now than I would have 3 years ago, like that just feels like something I can take away every day. Yeah.
I think that's when it helps to have teammates.
Yeah.
When you just kind of like laugh at yourself and you're like, I feel so like fat under the pull-up bar, or I feel so, whatever it is. Because there's a flux. There's always a flux. Nothing is like static. We're existing in homeodynamic bodies. So I love the 80% that you were talking about before, like trying to let your 80% be the winner the day in and day out. That's what professional artists say. We're going to be
80/20
your
rule, kind of. Yeah.
well, it's like if you're a performing artist, you're not gonna be 100% every single show. All in
Yeah.
all, you're gonna be at your 80% level, so you train accordingly. So, like, let's just say if there's a high note that's at the top of your register, you wanna train a little bit higher than that, so it's easier for you to do under pressure. So it applies to a lot of things, and I'm sure that there's a million things that you apply that to. When you're under pressure, do you have a thought that you lean on the most? Something that you go back to and say to yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been asking questions more. I think it's been a nice way for me to embody the answer versus like again, ways of getting out of the mind. I used to have mantras and I still use them from time to time. I write 3 keys every game as well on my blocker so I can kind of like look into my hand and reset, have some things that I write there. But lately, so for me, I didn't exercise recently. It's kind of getting to the root of your primary question in life. Like, what's this thing that's always subconsciously driving you, especially from this survival or old self, you can call it. And for me, it's very rooted in how others perceive me. And
Mhm.
that shows up everywhere in life, on the ice, off the ice. But on the ice, it could be what's my coach thinking? Did I let my teammates down? Is there a scout in the stands or something like that? So just noticing when I start to live out that loop and that fear and replacing it with just the question of like, how can I experience this moment fully right now and be in this moment fully? Like just as simple as that. And then just letting go into that. It's been extremely powerful.
That's beautiful. I used to play golf at a really high level, and I play not at a very high level anymore because I don't train. I don't train like I used to. And when I'm out there, I play on Sunday with my dad and my brother, and they shoot under par. They're amazing. And I have a low handicap, but I just like it sucks when you go out there and you get beat by your brother by 6 shots. When I mess up, I often ask myself, well, like, how can I still have a good time? Like, because I'm not playing for money. Like, I'm not out there to impress anybody. Like, it's just my ego that wants to compare me to when I was training 7 days a week. Like, I can accept the fact that I train the 1 hour a week if I'm lucky and I can shoot like crazy low still. And I can celebrate that. So I often say, like, what do I need to do to have a good time? It's often just like looking at the birds or like making a joke or turning the music on in the golf cart, which is like a crazy thing. Um,
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when we get old, so, like, I sometimes try to play that game too, like, pretend I'm 150 years old and I get to wake up as my 35-year-old self, and it's like, "Wow," like, everything feels so good, like, I can just get in a car, like, I don't have whatever I would have at 150 that I think would bring me responsibility, but I like that you're saying questions. I think questions are a really nice way to get around a lot of mental blocks. When there's more pressure and, like, you're doing more brave things, you have opportunities to fail a lot, and how you create either the silver linings or those stories, like, creates the stagnation in your career. You can see it, like, whoever plays high school, there's only, like, such a small percentage that go to college, and then such a small percentage that actually turn pro, and then such a small percentage that make it in the pros for a period of time, and then such a small percentage that make it onto the Olympic team in some way. So it's like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction that actually walk through all of the doors to just stay in the mind game that you're in, you know?
Mm. Do you feel like, as someone that used to train consistently and doesn't anymore, that you can still access that top level of your game when
Yeah.
you like every now and then, but it's just not as consistent, or how does that feel?
Honestly, there's this author called Richard Bach. I've read every book he's ever written, and he's like a quantum physics guy that writes books. And he talks about accessing different timelines. So when I go on the golf course, I tell myself that I never quit and that I'm on the LPGA tour and I'm just like here chilling with my family, like low key. Like I try to go full on imagination cosplay in my brain
Like alter
of
ego
like,
kind of.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to play on the World Long Drive next year. So I've been training driver, which is hysterical because that's like training one shot on the hockey rink, like in no other aspect of your game, which I realized was detrimental for like actually scoring and playing. Anyway, I started to hit more shots. So I was really like with long drive, you get 6 shots. It's very different than golf. You get 6 shots and then you have to land it within the whatever valley. And I'm at sea level here. So like I have to be at 280 fly to like even be in the money up in Colorado. And that's been like a weird hype up. Like golf is like the actual game of golf is very stoic and balanced. Like you have to handle a lot of failure. Like you can be amazing right out the gate. Like you still have to show up the next 16 holes and hang the fuck in there. And it's, you go through like a sugar crash on hole 13. And as a golf cart girl, like I made a lot of money knowing like how people were balanced with their sugar if they didn't bring a snack. But long drive is like a psychic. You're like in an archery game. It's like more like playing darts. The adrenaline hit is like different. And that's been like very fun to like shift up the training. So yeah, I feel like AI can always access my pro field. And then that professional field can change like how you relate to it as a goalie. Like if you change sports when you're 40 and you started to like fight or something, you would relate to the field, but with more textures. So like when I started singing professionally and touring, I realized that like my voice, particularly before I would get to the mic, when I would be in a space a cappella, I could throw my voice like with trajectory and I could become tense. Like if I was thinking about if I sounded good, it would kind of divide my consciousness in half. Just like when I hit a golf shot, if I'm thinking about the outcome or I'm attached to the outcome, I'm only half as present in my body versus if I'm just locked onto one spot of the golf ball, I hold the target in my mind and then I let my body execute the shot. Singing is like very similar. I have to kind of be with my breath and then trust, like, because I can, like, it's a feeling, like, it's like I have to stay within the expressive feeling of the sound and then trust that the sound is going to like pump through and then control that trajectory of sound so that it's like blanketing. So anyway, I think like
Yeah.
the relationship to sport changes as you try different stuff, like chess, painting, tantra, all of it changes your brain, how you relate to the same field. Music.
1000%.
Yeah.
Stuff should be encouraged more. Like everyone's talking about specialization in kids or teens, like when that time is sports, but even outside of the game, like a Hall of Fame goalie, I was lucky enough to have mentor me when I was like 17 through 20 years old. I asked like his greatest advice, and it was find hobbies. Like that was it. Just find hobbies, as many of them as you can, and get your mind away, learn new skills, apply it back to the sport, however you might.
Interesting.
Talk to me about the act of intention towards the target, but how that differs from being attached to it in your
Okay.
experience. I
Wow,
find
what a
that
good question.
so fascinating.
Yeah, because we relate to the field differently. Like I've projected into the field where you've like witnessed the field better. So
But I still I struggle with the balance of how much do I need to set intentions in that process? Like hold my glove here so that it's ready and in that place and like all those things. But then when I'm really in that flow or I'm playing my best, like I'm not thinking about shit. Like it just happens.
mm,
So and I play a little bit of golf, not much, but I love playing golf because I can experiment a little bit with that and yeah, pick that target back on the ball, like empty the mind and just trust that
yeah.
it knows what to do.
Okay. What a great question. So like first off, sequences are huge for me. So like I used to train for like thinking I was going to be in the US Open. So I would watch these girls and I would see how they were so exact, like a 60-second, like once it's their turn, like let's say they're walking into a 1-foot putt, they would still go through the same exact like pre-shot sequence. over every putt, over every wedge, over every long shot, because that the timing that you learn in those sequences, it chills your nervous system out so that you're calibrated to the shot. Like short game in golf is so variable. Like everything, even if you played the golf course a million times, every shot you hit is brand new. So giving your body a chance to have a couple practice swings and then take a breath and then step into that shot and then just have your set pacing. To me, I don't think people can become like at a very high level without like a solid sequence, because there's so much that your body and your brain and the ball kind of co-create. It's like art that way. Like you can't really dictate the shot and like shoot low. It's like you're always in this co-creation process with like the wind and like how, if there's dew on the green, it's not going to like bite like it's normally going to. So those are important. But the way that I learned how to play was from a statistician, Coach Joan Joyce. And she had this way of playing to your 80% shot that made you be less risky. And it had to do with like how you throw the ball, how you picture the shot going in your mind before you hit it. So like I stand behind the ball and I calibrate basically 15 units of data. You know what I mean? Like how far am I? What is the wind doing? If there's a bunker short, what's the lip of the bunker? If there's a bunker long, what's the lip of that bunker? So I want to know about like 15 key data points so that the club I'm choosing makes my body feel safe. And so sometimes, like if I'm between clubs, let's say I have like a tricky 95-yard shot and it's like a little into the wind, and the pin is tucked between trouble, I'll have a conversation with my body and two clubs in my hand behind the ball. And I'll be like, okay, body, like I can hit like a punch this club, and we can try to spin it into position, or I can just, throw up a lofty cut with this one. We can let the wind surf it back into that corner. And there's this like conversation that you have with the wind and the ball and the club and your body. And the more that I stay in touch with that, the better I play. So it doesn't take much. Like if I become tight, like which I found a sweet spot with gambling, because like if you can make someone nervous, their swing like really takes a blunder. And there's a lot of ways to create pressure in a match play golf, which is fun. And that's its own thing.
Yeah.
But if I can like manage myself around the course for the swing that I have that day, like sometimes I'm just like throwing lines, and it's easy to be a little bit more risky and it's easy to take like more dangerous edges. But I play for effortless pars. Like that's what I play for these days. And effortless pars have to do with like shooting at the fat of a fairway and like sometimes not taking driver, but like being very strategic and like respecting the architect, playing away from trees so that I don't have to hit like a roping draw or a cut, playing towards the fats of greens and accepting like a 30-foot putt instead of just gunning in it at the pin with like water close. There's a lot of things that like I just manage as a chess player out there with like respect to the course architecture and how my body feels with the wind and the swing that I have. That's my best golf. And then I love playing with players that are better than me.
So
There's
your brother.
always, he's just such a cocky shit. And then he tries to give me lessons after, like he's embarrassed about my play or something. He hasn't caught up to the fact that I don't train. He like fully expects me to go out there and perform, And you know how it is being around warrior pro athletes that can access that. My dad has shot 62 twice, once with a double. So like me and my brother's trying to knock on dad's record, and I'm just like, I'm not as good as you guys. But my swing's better. So like they see so much potential in me, but their ability to lock in with the putter is like so artistic. Like they just believe in themselves. Like they'll be over putts and they just like believe they can make it. And I'm over the putt, just like effortless par. It was interesting. Like some people have that assassin level energy, whereas I feel like an artist. Like I'm out there to make it look beautiful.
Is that how they are in their day-to-day life, or is it what they can lock into out there?
What a good question. They like to tackle goals. They're both they're both contractors. So they're like in a very physical Like they're in industrial coatings, so they do like dangerous kind of complicated stuff, but at the end of it, it's like a building that's painted.
Yeah, yeah.
But like somebody had to like walk on top of that building and like strip it. You know what I mean? Yeah, different world, different way they relate to the world, but crazy, amazing golfers, just like low key.
Just hopping on the course on a Sunday. Yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it's artists do this too. Artists are playing with the field. So if you like, have a chance to take a walk around a museum with a painter and have them like point out what's wrong in the patterns, like you'll just start to perceive that everybody's messing with the same field. We just talk about it different. And it's all gone in the box of like weird or strange or feelings. But then you'll notice that we apply the same words like to emotional, like when someone dies, we call it like it's heavy. If there's pressure on us, nerves feel electrifying. Like when we're terrified, if we like add electrical language to the sensations that we're experiencing, I think that we'll find the words that we need to get better. Because like when we add a word, we start to weaponize that feeling because we can kind of like we've labeled it, and then that dial we can start to sense a little bit better. I wanted to send you an interview I did with Dr. Edith Ubuntu. She's this mathematician from Harvard that opened up a school that helps kids see when they're blindfolded. They're accessing like other states of like they're accessing sensations outside of our just normal five senses. And she makes a very scientific case for all of our ability to tap into these precog senses. I'm finding the science to back her up, but it'd be fun to see somebody like you get your, just like add it to the brain and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it, but I believe everything these days.
I'm going to ask you a few more questions. This has been a fantastic talk. How do you unwind the body after being in constant micro reaction mode?
I don't. Just creating an environment to let go, like lay in bed, body scans, things like that. I trained to be a massage therapist this summer. I had ample time in the off season, and I took decent amount of craniosacral, if you're
Mm.
familiar with that. That kind of blew my mind. I wouldn't say it's exactly what you're talking about in terms of going outside of the five senses, but there is definitely some of that in the sensing and the biodynamic approach to it. And yeah, I think if we can hold awareness in certain areas of our body and get conscious of holding patterns and give them space and breath, and I think they know what to do on their own was kind of the lesson I learned from that class, and just trying to, in between games, in between practice, allow myself to unwind however the body wants to do it. The stuff that I'm doing, just becoming more and more conscious of how fucking crazy it is. Like, it's like I probably take over 1,000 shots a week to my body, like probably 50 of them hurt to a decent extent, and the other ones my nervous system still registers them. Like I still felt it. And there's just going to be damage there that's hard to reverse or unwind every single day.
Hmm.
But if I can do it better than the other guy, then I'm giving myself some sort of advantage. And I don't think most people even understand the effects that that has on the body and the nervous system. And not only the pucks, but just if you've seen a goalie, if you've watched ice hockey and you see what a goalie does, we go on down to this butterfly position that most people do probably 5 times in their life, and we're doing hundreds, thousands times a week, multiplied by years, and like there's stuff going on there in the body, in the joints, and it's also incredible to witness how adaptable the body is and how it can put you in these crazy positions and allow you to stay healthy in the process, but there's going to be some downstream effects. So, like you said earlier, putting people in my corner also that just understand the body so much better than I do, and
Mm.
leaning on them to give me simple, ideally simple exercises to reset my patterns and compensation patterns. Do a lot of like simple release loads, a lot of that, just unwinding holding patterns that I have. And that was a huge unlock for my performance, just in terms of like rebalancing the body. I'd twice a week this summer I would do um what is it, neuromuscular massage with a guy in San Jose, and right outside of the rink, we just an hour he would do body work on me and then give me some exercises to take with, and they kind of build on themselves as I release one compensation pattern. There's kind of another one that reveals itself, and then I hop right on the ice, and I felt fantastic. Just like I could feel the balance of my body. I could feel like my legs were doing the work that they were supposed to. I was grounded in my feet. My jaw wasn't trying to compensate for every single up and down movement I did. And that was pretty incredible. So just like trying to take bits and pieces of that into the season, especially now being in Europe and like you said, having two physios on our team that are responsible for everyone, you're just not going to get the same attention, but doing what you can, there's value in that.
I want you to train with me if you'll be allowed. I would love for you to try my program. I got one retired hockey player back on the ice in Europe this year.
Cool.
Uh, yeah, your guys' feet are a wreck.
Yeah,
So
it's insane. It's
my
insane.
program is very helpful right out the gate. You'll love it. What patterns do you see in athletes who burn out versus those that have long careers?
Say the ones that burn out have never been taught that everything doesn't need to be, that everything, there's this idea that in sports, like hard work is every single thing, but there's never anything taught about working smart and efficiency. And it's like we talk about like work as hard as you can and then like try to recover and then work as hard as you can again. And like, and of course, ideally that's great. Like that's how you push the envelope, but with everything we've already talked about how the reality of the season and our sleep schedules and everything like that, like you probably shouldn't be, you know, huffing and puffing on the floor after a bike workout in the day in between games and expecting to feel your best the next day. And yet it could be a superpower, and just like your mind just pushes you to the next level every single time. But at a certain point, I always see those guys like injuries happen or they retire at the age of 32, 33, and they're kind of like, oh, why? Like, why me? But there's other guys that I've seen dive into this side of things physiologically, emotionally, and play till they're 40. And I don't think there's enough conversations about that.
There's not a lot of conversations about longevity in a sport, handling the touring schedule, how to recover while you're touring, all of those things. What is the goal in your sport?
For me, how do I experience the moment fully right now? That's my question. Honestly, that's it. In a way, my ego has a lot of goals, but I don't know if they actually help me get there. I've played in the Olympics. I've played 5 years of pro hockey and had success at times, less success than others. I want to play in the NHL full time, and that would be awesome. But also, it's funny. Like I went into this season, I didn't know if I was going to get a contract or till when I would this fall, and I went into the season just like so free from all of that, not needing anything, so unattached, but knowing it would probably come, and when it did, I would go out there and have fun, but very surrendered to the rest. And I came in and just like played incredibly. Like it felt so effortless. And then as soon as that happened, my mind starts to come back in. It's like, oh, now I have options. I can go here, or like if I keep doing this well, then I can sign that NHL deal for next year. And maybe that is my goal now, and I'll be happy then. Like then I'll actually like be very happy about things. But I feel like that's the most destructive pattern in my life. So for me, I'm just trying to like show up every day and be as present as I can, because I prove to myself too, like great things will happen when I do that. When I'm in the moment, like there's no need for anything else really.
And that's so wise.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been struggling with that as a business owner. I was just telling like my business partner Dan, I was like, man, athletics and art has taught me to calibrate to so much adrenaline that like but then it's over. Like once the performance is over, like you're done. Like you can kind of like purge, whatever process or failure was. I was like, but business is just like an ever present, like daily show that you're kind of in, like a performance that you have to keep showing up for day after day. And I was like, it's a very different mindset of letting go of the past. And I just told him this morning, I'm like, finally, I'm getting to a point where like each day in business is like one hole of golf. And like, regardless of even just like how a meeting went 3 hours ago or 2 hours ago, like there's so many frequency changes that I go through as an entrepreneur that I've never experienced as an athlete, like highs and lows and negotiations and like things that pull my energy in so many different ways. And it's like, okay, but I just have to be present. Whatever happened this morning happened this morning. Whatever's happening next week that I'm so afraid about, it's not happening until next week. So, even just working through the visualization of like, okay, well, what are my fears of next week? How can I best prepare? How can I prep my energy to be most grounded? It's like all of these same athletic conversations apply to so many different kinds of pressure and growth phases that we go through as humans.
Yeah, I found that fascinating. I was on the yesterday I was on the bike. We were doing a bike workout after our practice, and I just noticed this like hyper focus into the moment, like you're talking about that adrenaline, and it's a gateway into that moment and bring all my focus towards, okay, I have 8 minutes left of this bike ride and like I'm gonna be all here. And then the second it's over, it's this release, like you're talking about, like you let go. And then, but I feel like in that place I become disconnected from myself at the same time. I become disconnected from the moment, and I'm thinking about, okay, how am I going to get home or what's for lunch? And I don't really want to live like that in my day-to-day life. I do 90% of the time.
Mm.
But for me, it's just like putting hockey aside, my life has become a lot more directed towards self-actualization or embodiment of these things in general, of like living in alignment with my true nature and in that present moment. And hockey has now become a vehicle to experience that deeper, or just to have something that I'm applying it towards, versus before it felt like the opposite. Like I was learning about flow state and all these things so I could be a good hockey player. Now I'm learning about all hockey so I can be a better human. And I think there's a shift that happens there where it doesn't just become about how do I show up fully on the ice, but how can I show up fully in my life? And then hoping that skill will also translate on the ice, even though it is different. Like, and you bring up a lot of good points about we're not running on adrenaline all day, but how can I still apply that? It's not going to be as intense, but that focus and that presence into everything is the biggest challenge in my life right now by far, but it feels like a worthwhile one.
You sound like a like sophisticated retired professional. Like you got to the place that most people don't get till after retirement for a few years when they've wrestled the lack of adrenaline into the ground.
I feel like this off season, I had so much time, debatably too much time, but like 6 months of an off season for a hockey player is a long time. Our season ended right after the regular season, no playoffs last year. And then, like I said, I didn't get a contract for till after the training camps here. So it was a while, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So it almost felt like I kind of dipped my toes in the water of retirement, like what that would feel like, and really trying to experience it, to open up hard questions, which are like, do I want to continue to play? Like, is this really where my heart is? And the answer was yes, but without stepping away, I think I just would have like put the blinders on and like continued at pretty much the same trajectory, which was overall still pretty conscientious of these things, but not as understanding of like what that would actually feel like to be out of the game and out of that adrenaline.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
It's funny.
literally sitting in massage school for like 6 hours a day some days. Like, just like it was so different. There was no adrenaline there, and that really exposed me. I will say, like that exposed the shit out of me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like it. It's a hard thing to live without, but I want to remind you that you can get it in like in other spaces. Like that's why athletes learn golf because like you can't really hurt yourself, but you can still get a lot of adrenaline in.
Do you think you need it? Do you think you need the adrenaline? I don't know. I don't know another reality. Like that's I've been playing hockey since I was a kid, and it's funny to think about civilians just walking around every day who like their hit of adrenaline is the 30 minutes of exercise they do every couple days. And that's like, I don't know
Yeah.
what that would be like, really.
You feel like a psychopath. Like to return to a public gym is a very, very, very weird thing. To like realize that no one really actually works out. Like, I mean, pro athletes, when you train, like you're exasperated. You've hit like your limit on a lot of different valve mechanisms within the body. And you can just like go a long period of time without seeing someone push and someone lock in, which is kind of interesting because like I like vibing. What I realize about myself is that I like vibing off of people that are pushing into their strengths. And like strength to me is found by pushing on your electromagnetic frequency to its limit and to its emptiness. So it's not just one direction, it's both, just like fasting. So I think that we increase our awareness by hitting on our emptiness and our maximums. And I notice now, like being around free divers, like those pro athletes hold a very different frequency than like fighters do or golfers. I would call the golfers like the Prince dandies. Like we talk a lot of shit out there, but like we're just in a beautiful garden, like throwing a ball around. Like so there's different kind of people. No, living without adrenaline, I found I just started a business. Like when I didn't have sport, I started a band. Like if I'm not pushing on my limit, am I dying slowly? Like,
Yeah,
and I don't have kids, so it's different for me. I feel like my time is my own in a lot of ways and like my income is my own. So I took it easy for a little while and I got bored and I gambled a little too much probably.
yeah.
I wasn't giving back. And I feel like now I'm in a very much like, how can I be of service? And the next gen should hear these like internal conversations that we have about sports performance because people like us, Strauss, we don't write the books. The scientists write the books and they postulate on like what it takes to calm yourself down under pressure. But it's postulation. Like they're not talking from the internal experience, but you can communicate from the inside experience. And this is like what sport is. There's a lot that you learn orally from coach to student, and that's why like students pass from coach to coach to become greats because you have to kind of distill a lot of pattern and knowledge. But I'm hoping that this conversation will like digest in you and you add words to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the things that I'm most blessed for in terms of switching teams so many times, which has been so exhausting. But also I've met so many coaches and just been exposed to so many different cultures living around the world and picked up a lot of different things. It's been invaluable. And a lot of people, like everyone's kind of saying the same thing with a different language, but sometimes you need to take in those different languages to understand and sort it out for yourself, like what that means to you or what you need at least. Like there's something that works for everybody. It doesn't mean that everything works for everybody. String up that phrase, but the point is there. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to finish this conversation with before we call it good?
No, really grateful for the time. This was fun. I appreciate the similarities and how we see things, and I wish there was more conversations like these, and I love nerding out about this stuff. So this was fun.
Thanks for being part of it, man. Thanks for adding so much wisdom to it. You kind of, you sound like an old, wise gentleman that's been here for thousands of years. But can I ask, how old are you?
I'm 27.
Yeah, with the wisdom of a old monk.